So just keep in mind, although Pokemon shift up and down with their, like with the balance updates, the Pokemon that don't get touched inherently get better, right? So I think those big bazooka from a range Pokemon, like Decidueye with Spirit Shackle, Mew with Solar Beam, not Mew, Venusaur with Solar Beam, these Pokemon are going to be better in this current meta. Okay, so we got a bit of a surprise patch, which is really cool, and honestly, they've done some of the best changes. I'm pretty happy with this. They've fixed a lot of Pokemon that are like kind of unplayable, and they finally nerfed Zacian, which has been a long time coming. Because if we have a look at Zacian's win percent, 55 win percent, and like this has been consistent. It's a little bit too much. Okay, so Zacian got a nerf, just a nerf all around, right? Especially, and I'm big on this. On the range, on the leap range of his boosted attack, that's been reduced. So that's really good, right? That means it'll be a lot easier to kite him, which is amazing. Sableye got a nerf. I'm kind of happy with it, right? It's sort of like, I'm not really a fan of Sableye as is. I think he's kind of bad, and I only say that because I'm sick of having him on my team, because I don't really do much. So I'm glad he got a nerf. So hopefully he gets picked less. I'm just not a fan of this Pokemon. Glaceon. So Glaceon's like now back to where it was. Where it should have been, okay? It never should have been buffed. So Glaceon is back to normal. Urshifu, again, it did need a nerf, right? Like if we have a look at the win percent, Urshifu like honestly wasn't up there, but competitively, really, really strong pick, right? So I'm glad they've done it. He's a lot less impactful at that initial gank. Still really, really strong, but yeah, I'm glad they've done that. Lapras got a nerf, and he needed a nerf. Look at the Lapras win percent, 52% for a defender. Feels like Trevenant back in the day, right? Lapras, especially that Water Pulse Bubble Beam set, it was just a little bit too much. The damage was a bit much, and the CC was a bit much, and yeah, so still really strong, don't get me wrong, still really, really good. But that Bubble Beam increase on the cooldown, that's a great change. Dodrio got a slight nerf, just to the damage that his boosted attack does when he's like at full sprint gauge. Good change, good change. Dodrio, strong, really strong Pokemon, I just can't use it properly. I've been practicing and I'm still trash at it. But yeah, that, I feel like that was a good change, because that boosted attack would just do so much damage. Dragonite. Now Dragonite's one of these Pokemon that was just completely unplayable, and this is where we're getting to the exciting part of this hatch, right? Dragonite. Yes, it got a big buff, right? And mainly to his stats, but the exciting one is this attack speed, right? So previously at like level 15, if you noticed, you'd have a roughly 30, and it's got to do with frames per second and stuff like that. Attack speed. Now you're kind of sitting at that same amount when you're level 11, which is really, really good. Like really, really good. Even level 10, you're going to see the benefit of that. And so when you take him in late game, like 43 attack speed is pretty good. So you don't get too close to Dragonite when he's outraging. Okay, don't get too close to this Pokemon. He's going to be really, really strong. Alright, especially considering, like, look at the attack. 367. It kind of feels like it's just a stronger level earlier, and they buff multi-scale, whatever. Kind of cool, I don't know. Buzzwole got a great buff. I actually didn't think Buzzwole needed the buff. Buzzwole was really strong. He was seeing some good competitive use, but the buff to his defenses and special defenses, along with the shield of this superpower, is great. I know a lot of people like using Leech Life. I'm not really a fan of this move. I prefer Smackdown. I'm not a fan of Leech Life. I prefer the Smackdown and superpower set. But yeah, a great buff, great little buff. Makes him a lot tankier, which is nice. Now Zoomerl got a really cool buff. I've noticed this immediately in my lobbies. This Pokemon hits a heck of a lot harder, right? A heck of a lot harder. So be careful. This Pokemon comes online at level 4 and will absolutely steamroll your lane. So be careful. Aegislash got a buff. Now this is awesome because Aegislash was already pretty good. Aegislash is probably one of the few all-arounders that was in the meta, minus Zacian, that was actually playable. And Shadow Claw, I still think, like, even though I got a buff, I still think Sacred Sword's the better move, just because of the way the damage functions, how it, like, it almost completely ignores defense, which is great. You know, Shadow Claw will give you some crit. I'm not a fan of Shadow Claw. I also prefer the movement and mobility of the Sacred Sword, and how it gives you more boosted attack as well. But anyway, what the buff was is that you were getting tankier in your shield form. Now, if you've watched a couple of my videos on Aegislash, you'll understand that this Pokemon in its defense form was already crazy good as was. I just think people weren't using it optimally. Now, in this defense form, it's an absolute brick wall, right? You can just soak some damage. You can probably viably make a tankier build, like maybe an AS Cookie Focus Band build. Because when he goes into that, into his sword form, he just rips out some damage, right? So really, really awesome changes there, right? I'm really excited about this nerf. And then Delphox, apparently his boosted attack can crit now. Bug fix, buff, cool, fantastic. So overall, like, this is a really, really cool patch. But remember, there were Pokemon that have been buffed, so that's your Azumarill and your Aegislash and your Dragonite, and some Pokemon that have been nerfed, which were the Pokemon that were doing really well, which is Zacian and Lapras mainly, right, and Glaceon and Urshifu. So just keep in mind, although Pokemon shift up and down with their, you know, like with the balance updates, the Pokemon that don't get touched inherently get better, right? So I think those big bazooka from a range Pokemon, like Decidueye with Spirit Shackle, Mew with Solar Beam, Venusaur with Solar Beam, these Pokemon are going to be better in this current meta, right? And it's because a lot of people are going to be picking these close-up Pokemon, right? They're going to want to use the Dragonite it's got a pretty good buff. Same as Buzzwole, right? Same as Azumarill, same as Aegislash. And these are all melee brawler Pokemon, and the one thing that's just incredible against these brawler Pokemon are big range hitters that can kite them from a distance but do massive burst damage. So I think this is exciting patch, but it's really cool for me because I actually love using those Pokemon, right? Especially the Venusaur Solar Beam. Although it's not, like, you know, it doesn't have the best win percent or anything, I just think it's such a fun Pokemon to use, especially if you can get it going really well in the lane. So that's pretty much the patch update. Let me know what you guys think of it. I think it's a really good one. I think it's a lot better. I think they've addressed some of the key stuff that has been making this game a little bit, you know, tough to play at some times when a Zacian just smashes the heck out of you, or same as a Glaceon. So that's my 2 cents.